If you're looking for a tactical, strategic first-person shooter experience, then one game I will always recommend to you is Insurgency. It's a game made by New World Interactive. In the not-too-distant past, the dev team of that game announced they'd be taking all they'd learned developing the title and its World War II skinned brother called Day of Infamy and producing a brand new game called Insurgency Sandstorm. That's due to release in 2018 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Today, I'm going to go through everything you need to know about the title and what you can expect from it when it does eventually launch later this year. The original title has now sold nearly 4 million copies just on the PC platform, which is a huge number for a game that is developed by an independent development team. Sandstorm definitely has a lot of potential. Firstly, probably the most noticeable improvement and key feature of Insurgency Sandstorm is the engine it will be running on. The original title ran on the Source engine, which is of course famed for its ability to run on almost any PC setup, whether that be a modest budget build or a state-of-the-art bleeding edge machine. Sandstorm is switching gears and is being built on the Unreal Engine 4, taking the game from one extremely well-optimized engine to another well-optimized engine, but with the added benefit of more advanced graphical capabilities and gameplay mechanics. This move also signals, as I mentioned above, a move across to console platforms as well as the PC. Both the PS4 and the Xbox One will be graced with Insurgency Sandstorm when it launches, and all platforms will be launching at the same time. No staggered launch, which is a big statement from the developers, moving on from the days of being a small-time dev team and taking on some of the bigger players in the FPS market. Sandstorm obviously embodies what made the original Insurgency game so unique and different, its focus on team play, strategy, and quick thinking. The pace of Insurgency is a little bit slower than other first-person shooters like Battlefield or Call of Duty. Bullets hit like trains, you're suppressed by enemy fire extremely quickly, and there is absolutely no mercy whatsoever when it comes to gunfights. The game is literally telling you, kill or be killed. That said, when you do get yourself into some of those tight situations in urban scenarios, the pacing of the game might tell you to be cautious, but you do still need to have quick reactions to focus on emerging enemies. And with Sandstorm being on an up-to-date, modern engine, I think that's going to be much easier to handle than currently on the Source engine for the original Insurgency game. Let's talk weapons now. Sandstorm is going to have a tiered reload system whereby the game will remember where you were mid-reload if you have to switch to another weapon, and when you switch back to it, it will continue that reload for you. This clip here shows that you can also fire the bullet left in the chamber when you remove the magazine from the gun before you put a new magazine into it, which is a really cool feature. There will also be quick and full reloads as well. A quick reload drops the ejected magazine and any rounds in it onto the ground in exchange for getting your weapon back firing faster, and the full reload retains that magazine for you to use again. In terms of weapon mechanics and gunplay, Sandstorm is raising the bar here and seems to be trying to do something totally different to most other FPS games on the market. The game is going to combine hit scan and moving projectile bullet mechanics. So at close range, hit scan will be employed. This means wherever you're aiming and firing shots, those will land instantly on the target. At longer ranges, bullet projectile mechanics will kick in, meaning the player needs to compensate for bullet drop and lead shots should that come into play, and there will be a short time between firing the shot and it landing on the target. Now, I'm not aware if there are any other shooters at the moment currently on the market that do this same system, but it's certainly a bold move from the development team, and one that is really likely going to change the feel of this shooter compared to others. Having played Battlefield games for nearly 10 years now, I'm no stranger to projectile bullet mechanics, having to leave my targets at long range and account for bullet drop as well. And in my own opinion, I think this adds more skill to a video game. If you invest time into learning and mastering the weapons, getting a feel for their strengths and weaknesses, you can really maximize the power of that gun and likely start winning more long-range gunfights, or even just picking off players from a distance with a rifle. It's always really really satisfying to do. You're rewarded for your time by learning those mechanics of each weapon, and thus a skill gap emerges in the game that you're playing. Players need to climb a curve to become better. And on the other side of things, you have hit scan at close range. This will be an interesting mechanic to see out in the wild. Of course, the game is currently in closed alpha, so people are testing the system, but one benefit I can already see is latency. Games played over internet connections will always have inherent latency, but with projectile-based bullet mechanics, sometimes that latency can cause rather suspicious deaths that you don't feel were warranted. At close range, however, that can be even more frustrating, so by employing hit scan at close range, you might be eliminating some of those frustrations and allowing players to simply focus on taking down the target that's standing right in front of them. Now let's talk about the maps being made for Insurgency Sandstorm. The development team have gone back to the drawing board with this game, and for one very good reason: the introduction of vehicles. Sandstorm will accommodate various vehicles in its maps, unlike the previous game, which was restricted to infantry combat. And this means maps overall will be a little bit larger, but have still been designed to allow infantry combat to flourish, and the focus of combat will largely remain on infantry, and vehicles will be added to spice up gameplay and make teams think and change their strategy. The playable areas of the maps coming with Sandstorm will be dynamic, depending on the player counts in the servers at the time that you're playing. Small numbers on each side will see smaller player zones restricting combat and making sure population of that area is always fairly dense, and that way you're always coming into combat, things don't feel empty, and the larger 16v16 matches will have full access to the entire play area, and they'll feature larger gameplay mechanics, like drones, artillery strikes, jet gun runs, helicopter gunships, and of course drivable transport vehicles. The team are really ramping up the action in these larger matches. That said, it's not 100% clear right now how these mechanics will come into play during rounds, whether teams will earn them, or if they're individual to players doing well. I'm sure the developers have got something up their sleeves for that one. We'll just have to wait and see what comes out. Some other smaller, neat little mechanics the team are adding into Sandstorm include breaching doorways, magazine checks by holding down the reload button, and climbable ladders. The doorway breaches can be approached in different ways, with one option being a shoulder charge that could catch the enemy by surprise on the other side of the door, or a simple open and close system that will be much, much quieter, giving you a stealth option. Something that was actually dropped from the development of Insurgency Sandstorm was a single-player campaign. The team at New World Interactive instead chose to focus on the multiplayer experience that players of the original title got hooked on, and a PvE co-op experience as well. A single-player experience on top of co-op and multiplayer is something that most AAA developers sometimes struggle to nail properly, so the team took that option to cut the single-player and instead focus on delivering that improved experience to the multiplayer on a brand new engine. I would have liked to have seen a single-player campaign from the developers, but if it means compromising the multiplayer, I can understand their decision and I support it as well. And the team has also taken a stance on competitive gaming with Insurgency Sandstorm, and will be supporting that from the launch of the game. Multiplayer game modes comprise of Strike, Firefight and Capture the Base, and cooperative modes are Checkpoint, Operation and Outpost, so players have got plenty to sink their teeth into. Now, Firefight was designed with competitive in mind. You have to capture 3 objectives to be able to respawn, and it's designed to work with scaling player counts, but with more emphasis on lower numbers. Typically, FPS competitive experiences work on a 5v5 player number balance. Having just 3 modes for multiplayer might concern you a little bit, but when it comes to a game like Sandstorm that doesn't have as large an audience as, say, something like Battlefield or Call of Duty, keeping the player base contained at launch to a smaller number of modes means matchmaking will be quicker and you can get straight into games playing with your friends. Post-launch, I'm sure the developers will be messing around with more modes anyway. Competitive support comes in the form of rankings, competitive matchmaking, and an anti-cheat cheat system, and having a competitive scene running alongside the standard game can improve the entire community playing a game. We've seen it with Rainbow Six Siege. Players can learn from professional gamers who play in teams with new tactics, new moves, and different positioning. With all of that knowledge flowing between competitive and core parts of a video game, you can elevate the skill of your entire player base. So, that's everything I think you need to know about Insurgency Sandstorm at the moment. There is no official release date for the title currently, other than the 2018 stamp, so as time goes on and more information is revealed about the game, I will keep you all updated. I think Sandstorm has a really big opportunity to capture an audience right now because of its more hardcore focus. Players are absorbed by the Battle Royale scene, which is extremely harsh in its gameplay. You get one life and you cannot respawn. Sandstorm appears to be embodying that kind of playstyle, but it stays true to the team-based first-person shooter model rather than jumping ship to the Battle Royale genre. But let me know down in the comments if Sandstorm is going to be a game you're picking up in 2018, or if you're going to give it a miss, especially console players out there. This is the first time Insurgency is coming to consoles, and so I want to hear your opinions just as much as I want to hear PC players. But thank you very much for watching today, and until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.